Welcome to the Michigan Realty Business Podcast, where we discuss everyday business concepts with Michigan's local business owners and entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Rutledge, and I'm a licensed realtor at Good Company Realty in downtown Royal Oak, and I'm also the founder of MichiganRealty.org. Today, my guest is Ashley M. Williams, CEO of RIZZARR and former global speaker for the U.S. Department of State. Ashley is a leader in the world of business and an active board of trustee member for Detroit Public Television. So I know that you're going to appreciate her insights. Ashley and I discuss human connection and the difference between being genuine and just the perception of authenticity, while also touching on the importance of mindfulness and just taking a second to breathe. Now, before we begin, I would like to first emphasize that this conversation is separate from my practice as a licensed realtor here in the state of Michigan. But it is, however, part of my desire to uplift the people in our communities and the places that we call home. Without any further delay, I'd like to welcome Ashley Williams.
And should I look at you or should I look at the screen, or what would be better? Okay, which looks better, like here as I'm looking, or like looking this way?
Yeah, that way.
Great. Okay.
Is that it's very unnatural, isn't it?
It's fine though, because I see you at the corner of my eye, so I can see your reaction, so it's good.
Well, okay, so this is a good segue because a lot of communication is face-to-face, and now we're in this world where it's all digital centric. What do you make of this, and how sustainable is it? Because I think there's a real argument here for the fact that human connection needs to be in person.
Yeah, actually, and did you want to do an introduction too, or you're going to do it separately? Whoops,
I'm going to do it separately.
Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah. Sorry. You want to repeat the question?
No, you're okay. You're good. There's no right way to do this, Ashley.
That's
like I feel like we're in an age where people don't want that scripted, very rigid thing, and yeah, they just want the people. They want to know who everybody is deep down, beyond the actor that we all pretend to be.
So true.
In whatever we try to do.
So true.
And so, and that goes back to my initial question too, is like a lot of that human interaction is in person. And now we as business people, as entrepreneurs, just even everyday employees are forced to now interact more digitally. Mm-hmm. And is this sustainable? Is this going to be, something that is going to become a bigger thing in the way that we interact with people, or what are your thoughts here? This seems very unnatural.
Yeah, it does seem unnatural. I think too, that's why when people were so excited once like COVID was kind of dissipating somewhat, I'm not sure where it stands really right now, because then every time you turn around, the cases are getting higher or whatever, or there's monkeypox or I don't know. Anyways, so I think people really crave being around people. There's something about that human connection that, as much as virtually we can try to replicate, but there's nothing like being in person with someone. It's almost like I feel from having conversations with people virtually, but then when I finally meet them in person, it just takes it to a whole nother depth of getting to know the person and like relating to the person. It just, I don't know. There's just that's the genuineness of human connection.
Yeah, I think that there's something missing. I mean, I can see you right now. You can't technically see me except out of your periffs, but there's something missing. And I think that when you hear people talk about how communication is like 95% in your body language, we're not getting any of that over this type of a phone call, are we?
No. And even just everything I realize too, as I'm doing more inner work, everything really does have energy. And even the stuff that you have around you, like at your desk or wherever, everything carries energy. And so much is true of a person. And it's sometimes like when you're around a person, you can feel like something might be wrong and you don't know why you feel that way, but you just have this sense of feeling like from the person, something's wrong. It's like the same thing. And I think it's hard to get that virtually. And I think it's a skill you can develop, but it's still not the same as intuitively connecting with someone in person versus
true. And to layer that, because you're right. There's almost a maybe like a psychic power that we have,
Yeah.
and when you don't have that connection, especially in the digital space, you can also tell the opposite to that, where it's being faked. There's an effort being put into it that doesn't necessarily seem as authentic as what you would normally recognize as authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that even though you may not consciously calculate, oh, that's what's going on when I'm watching this particular thing or I'm listening to this particular thing, deep down, there's that subtle feeling, oh, this isn't as authentic as it could be.
Right. It's not like, or the person might say, it's not resonating with me, or I don't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. We've made up some silly slogans to really explain that feeling, but it's very unique. I really do wonder what's actually going on in our psyche or in our spirit or in our heart. Like, where is that being felt? Or is it just that over time in a person's life, we've learned these little patterns of behavior and we start to become accustomed to those patterns repeating, and when something deviates from that, then it becomes not as genuine. I don't know what's actually going on. Do you know by chance?
Yeah, well, kind of. So it's funny because I was talking to a friend this morning. He's also into like energy things and all that stuff. So what we were talking about is like this idea around in our society that people should be doing certain things, right? Like you should be at this certain place in your life. Should you should be blah blah blah. And I think these shoulds, what we were discussing, is like these shoulds have basically eliminated people's connection with their intuition over time, because everyone is so unique. Your life path is so unique. What you're here to do is so unique. But because we're operating so much on the should, and I guess as a form of survival, really, because there's also this thing with the mind. Also, there is this great book, by the way, that I would recommend. I'll get it right now. It's called The Inner Work, which really goes into the mind and how the mind functions. This is like one of my favorite books right now. Oh my gosh. Right. Favorite books of all time, to be quite honest with you. Anyways, though, so basically, because of all these shoulds, it's causing people not to be as connected to their intuition. So even if you feel something from someone and you don't know, you don't want to, you can't put your finger on it, but there's something about the person that just does not sit well with you. But on paper, like everything is great. Like, it just, but then it turns out there is something wrong with that person. Later on, you find out, blah, blah, blah. So I think over time, because our brain has been so wired to be in survival and to adapt to what our society has told us to be, or what our parental units have told us to be, our structure, wherever we've come from has told us to be, we've kind of like masked over ourselves, our intuition and our connection to ourself. So when you meet someone, it's like you're so used to having the mask of how you should be or how it should go, that you can't even connect to what you're actually really feeling, so that you can protect yourself. So we think we've been protecting ourselves with this survival mode, but it's actually causing us to be harming ourselves, because many people are not living their truth. They're not happy, and they end up putting themselves in situations that they could have avoided had they been more intuitively connected to that feeling and, that internal compass, you could say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see a lot of the, let's just call it, and if you're around kids right now, tell them to put earmuffs on. I see a lot of fake shit.
Yes.
In the world of politics. Okay.
Right.
You've got
That's a perfect example.
It's a perfect example, I think, because there's a lot of power dynamics and struggle for survival and resources and just, I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast, right? And so you've got some really unique experience working for U.S. embassies, traveling the world, talking to entrepreneurs from all over the globe, and obviously political figures as well. Do you notice that when you're talking to people from the political arena that you have to put on that mask? And if so, how much of a mask is there to wear?
No, only because I think from my experiences, it's like they want me to be my authentic self. And that's why when I if I'm selected to go to an embassy or a speaker to, whatever they need me to do, they want me to show up there being myself, because that's where, from what I've written down of being my focus areas of speaking or whatever, what I'm going to say, that's what resonates with them. So I have found that, so even when I have been like nervous or something and trying to be, it just doesn't sit well, because that's not how I am. I'm very bubbly. I'm silly. I'm playful. I can be serious when I need to be, but I also have this side where it's like my comfort level is to be a little bit playful, be funny, bubbly. So I think because of that, I haven't felt the need to, even when I've tried to be, and I've been nervous trying to be, it just didn't sit well. And it was better for me to be my authentic self and just to say from the heart what I needed to say, because that's what they brought me there to do. And they would remind me of that too, actually.
That's cool.
Just be yourself, say whatever you need to say, go ahead. Yeah.
That's interesting. So what type of things would you talk about with people at the embassies?
Yeah. So I remember they had me a couple of things. I went to a women's group meeting where I was talking to a whole bunch of women about like worthiness, self-love, like really living out their purpose, not letting societal things of how we should be get in the way of what they would like to do. I talked to an NGO that was connected to helping youth who came from like troubled homes or like underrepresented youth. And I was talking to them about my journey and following my dreams and things I had gone through internally, and also just, forward facing of dealing with people or just like navigating situations. And then even from the policy side of talking to like the ambassador there, or being on a panel with the ambassador, or talking to other entities related to even the more of the European Union side, it always still came back to my personal journey and me being wholeheartedly present with what I had gone through or different things that I've learned, my life lessons, and sharing those. And that's, there was also there were so many different fun groups. Like there was a tech group coming in that they put on like a smart cities program throughout Belgium every year. I'm not sure what happened with COVID, because it was right before COVID, but it was just so much fun to like speak to all these different people.
That's cool. And it actually kind of blows my mind a little bit too, because I would think that in that position, you'd want to be very buttoned up. You almost want to be scripted, to be honest. And so what you're telling me is high risk communications, like me dropping the S word there a second ago. That's a high risk communication. Certainly the US government wouldn't want me talking to, somebody in an official capacity and then, say shit. So, I think that, when you say, oh yeah, they just allow me to be me, there's a certain level of risk that's associated with that. And so, I presume when you let your hair down, you're just a regular person, just like everybody else. There's got to be a lot of pressure to be yourself for the United States government, though.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, I probably wouldn't use cuss words around them per se, because that may not be the best. Even though I might be like, so what I would do is I would say, like, if I were saying shit, I would be like shit, or like,
right. Just the SH.
Right. I would indicate that I was getting there, but not actually saying that word. And that's for laughs too, because by me saying that word, people find it more relatable. So they start laughing,
Totally.
So yeah, it was really interesting to me too, because I was so nervous about it. I can't tell you how nervous I was. Like I was actually, as much as I wanted to do the opportunity, I was actually really debating even getting on the plane the next morning and going, because I was like, I don't know. I think they probably put the wrong person. Like I had a full on imposter syndrome going on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So. Well, I wonder why they encourage you though. I tend to wonder, well, in sort of what you just alluded to, in the sense that when you do sometimes swear, it does make you more relatable. There's a certain level of humanization that comes across when you just become a regular person using regular lingo. And and that maybe comes down to the core necessity of having to build trust and rapport, so that you can eventually build those relationships that can provide satisfaction to whatever the objective is. And so then that brings us back to authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've gone on this journey from working for the government now to being in a role of leadership, where now you're focused on achieving a pretty unique goal that I can appreciate, at least from a production standpoint, because now you're focused on aggregating content creators from all over the area and allowing for businesses, or maybe just anything really, just find a content creator. If you need a content creator for whatever purpose, you'll be able to access local talent in your area pretty easily. How do you get from the government to this point now as a business leader? Was it the intuition that you were following?
Yeah, and I think because of the government items, like it was a unique way to also use. My mom has always encouraged me to. She's always believed in my speaking abilities, because even as a kid, I like hosted a show in high school, and I also was on the debate team. Like I've always been a speaker, and so she's always encouraged me to do speaking, and so using that gift. But then going into running a company, especially because I feel like at the same time, it's almost like I'm personally going through a rebirth of myself. And I also feel like the company is also going through a rebirth, because it's interesting to me how a person's company, or the people involved in creating the company, I should say, because even our co-founders, our people involved have all gone through different, journeys recently. But I think it's interesting how it shows up and how you operate in the world. And I think, there's a uniqueness about it, because all of a sudden, yeah, you are in a leadership role, and like you have to live what you preach. And part of my journey with this whole rebirth as well is a rebirth of my own creativity in creating content, which I had kind of silenced over the years after my career in journalism, and kind of took a break from it. But at the core, though, I am a content creator at heart. And so I also found that how can I tell other content creators to create content, and advocate for content creation, and tell other brands to make content when I'm not making content.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of it, the transition, as well as really getting more, like you said, with becoming authentically me. And I think over the years, because of all of the different masks that I felt like, or shoulds that I felt like I should integrate in my life, I finally have just like I'm done. Like, so you can take me as I am, or you can just keep going. I really don't care at this point. And I think it's because I just really feel more connected with my creator. And so I feel like it's time for me to step into why I'm here more, and to do so unapologetically.
Yeah. There's a lot of fear with putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that by doing this podcast or video conversation series with business owners throughout Michigan, there's a weight that's on my shoulders too, that I have to bear. And it's a certain level of self-accountability, and also a sense of responsibility with the brand Michigan Realty. But I have to now show up, right? Mm-hmm. And so the stakes are higher, but the opportunities are higher too. I get to have really awesome conversations with people like you, and it forces me to really start to build stronger relationships. Whereas before, when video production or really that desire to put yourself out there wasn't as much of a necessity, I could just kind of skate by with a couple cold phone calls and make things happen. And now we're at an age where that's not as feasible anymore. Mm-hmm. So you must have realized at a certain point that, I can transfer all of these skill sets that I have onto camera, because this is where the world is going, whether you're me in real estate, or whether you're you, or heck, you could be an oil change place, right? Take video, do something to promote the fact that you're on Jefferson Avenue or wherever, mm-hmm. right? We can't continue to rely on street traffic anymore to push our products or our services. And so when did you realize that that's the way to go? Or was it that being in the industry for your entire life, is that just something that you always just knew about? Or like what really made you realize that you can incorporate your passion into a career direction? There's a lot of questions there that is.
No, it's okay. It's good. That was good though. Really good. I think when I was 14 and part of my journey was when I was 14 and got into journalism was my high school had a television station. I went to South Lathrop High School. Okay. And they had a TV station there. And I thought, oh, this equipment's so cool. Never knowing what this whole thing was. I mean, I'd go home, I'd watch Oprah with my mom, but I never thought about being on camera per se. And I remember I was talking to the television advisor and he really liked my personality because I was, again, playful, cracking a lot of jokes. He was like, you should be on TV. You should audition for one of our shows. And so I did. And I fell in love with the whole process. And I wanted to learn everything about broadcast. And I remember my senior year of high school, so naive, or like my junior year, one of the two. And I was talking to this other television advisor there, and I was telling him, yeah, I just love this. I really think I want to pursue this. This is such a cool guy. He's like, well, actually, you can. There is the news. And I was like, oh. So, that was really a moment. And so then I realized, oh, there is broadcast. And so then I went to major in it. But I think because of the fact that even when I was 14 at the high school, for working in the TV station, we got paid. And that was actually really one of my first jobs outside of working for an ice cream shop, which I didn't like. Thanks. Yeah. So
I'm a big fan of ice cream, by the way.
Too. I was too, until I accidentally dropped all the strawberries out of the refrigerator and the manager. So that was funny. Well, not to him. Anyways, though. So yeah, so I eventually realized, oh, this is actually something that I think I could really do well at. And because I'm even getting paid for it now, I could really pursue as a living. So that's, I think, where the idea of doing what I loved married into actually getting paid to do what I loved. But I think really when I was at USA Today and I created a show for them, around ideas that I had pitched and things like that. And I saw, and even a series that I managed for them called Inspiration Nation. And I saw how my passions for certain types of content really resonated with audiences. And I was like, oh, wow. And then, although I'm not sure how well it did with their revenue and all that type of stuff, but I do know that Inspiration Nation did exceedingly well. It became like one of the top 3 series at the network. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. I'm helping them make money, but then yet my salary is still capped. That's not right. Yeah. And so it really made me start thinking about how I could pursue RIZZARR. And even though I had somewhat started working on RIZZARR on the side when I left NBC, which was my first job out of college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with it. It was kind of like a platform I used to help my friends and I get real world experiences, because that really allowed me to showcase to employers what I was capable of doing outside of just my regular, 9 to 5 of working at whatever station I was. So it was helpful.
Yeah. Well, for context, for people watching and listening, RIZZARR is your business that I was just talking about. Mm-hmm. And although I used my own words to describe it, how would you describe your business?
Yeah, I would say we are a tech marketplace that houses content creators, like a network of content creators that we vet and in the process of even vetting more thoroughly as we get our technology down. And from the content they're making, we're encouraging them to create purpose-driven types of content, or as we call it internally, conscious content. And from this, we want to evolve with taking the data from that content, because we want to produce automate the production of that content using technology to showcase to creators. You need to add this to the content to make it more purpose-driven in the format that we have seen resonate. And then taking the data from that content and how it performs, and then allowing brands to also be able to know more internally of what products and things they should be doing and what marketing they should be doing as they continue working with us. So we really want to create a cycle of the brand first coming, getting their persona, understanding what their needs are, connecting them to creators to help them with whatever those needs are, and then figuring out what the performance is so that we can help the brand in other ways holistically.
Totally. Okay. So I'm going to try to. So you've got. So you've got a bunch of content creators that you work with, mm-hmm. and I have a business, and I come mm-hmm. to you and I say, hey, I don't really know how to brand my oil change place. You will help tune the dials to the primal reasons why people are willing to engage with that particular brand,
Mhm.
and then
Or
amplify those dials with the content creation, leverage that content creation online,
Mhm.
and then the information that you aggregate from the performance of that content, you will then know how to adjust the dials.
Exactly. Exactly.
Gosh,
And so see, the fun part about this right now is, as I said, with the rebirth, is because I'm actually even going through this process myself of being a content creator right now. So
Yeah.
like figuring out how my platform would help me as a content creator.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of creators in the landscape right now are trying to also figure out, again, how they can marry that passion with making money from it. And there are all these different ways of making money as a creator. But essentially, though, it would be fantastic if every content creator could do the one thing that they love doing, which is content, not have an online class, not have a book, not have all these other speaking things that they do. Just create content.
Yeah.
But also learn, if you're a creator, how to create the best content. So there's also this other side of it where we are going to be having to teach content creators, partly with the technology and also other ways of courses or things that we'll offer on RIZZARR or through partners, whatever. So yeah, helping creators in that way, and then helping them to connect with brands and helping brands to better understand who they are as a brand.
Well, when you mentioned helping content creators create content, I think what you're really saying is that most content creators just know how to turn on the camera. They know how to get the good composition. They can adjust the settings to be exactly what would make the shot look good. And then, of course, maybe they can even edit. But a lot of content creators on the marketplace don't understand why people are engaging with a piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I don't know if there's a real correct answer to this, in your best guess, why are people online paying attention to certain types of content and not others?
Well, it's interesting because I think it changes with the times. You know, I mean, a lot of things like around even spirituality, probably if you would have looked at it like 10 years ago, of creators talking about that online, it wasn't as resonant with people as it is today. If you look at like Google AdWords and like even things on YouTube, you'll find that most people like things with health, lifestyle, and also money, how to generate money. So I think it depends on the times of what's going on. And I also think it depends on the different audiences that are of where these platforms are. Like it could be that certain people who buy certain products only really look to those products on like Instagram, you know, or like especially with beauty is really a lot of like what's shown on Instagram. I think more the health side and fitness stuff and all that type of stuff is really on YouTube. So I think it really also depends on the platform. And that's where it's like the real content strategy around for brands is all of these different elements that go with placement too. So it's not just creating the content that's engaging. And then sometimes too, even though sometimes the creators even need help though with placement of how their lighting is and things like that, or how they are, you know, which I'm still, you know, doing. But anyways, but I think it can also be part of that too, of figuring out where you should be seated and where you should be sitting, I should say, where you're taping or whatever it is that you're doing. And there's so many different pieces of becoming a great content creator.
Yeah, I agree. And in many ways, I don't know if businesses truly appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. No.
I know that as the brand Michigan Realty is focused on, you know, being a media company first before we even talk about anything to do with real estate, that implies that we need to understand every little nuance, not just from how to turn on a camera, how to work with lighting, how to, you know, manipulate sound. Of course, obviously how to edit, how to add, you know, visual effects. I mean, the layers of knowledge that is required in order to turn on a camera and to create good content that people engage with. You're right. It's only like really one battle in the entire war, because you just opened up an entire can of worms when you said placement too.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, geez. I mean, you could simplify it, I guess, by saying, well, short form content is on TikTok and long form content is on YouTube. But you added a wild layer that most people don't even think about. And that is that individual industry specific standards of where people are getting their consumption of content from
Mhm.
is also platform dependent.
Exactly. And I think partly though too is it's so much of the brand knowing though again who they are,
Yeah.
what they doing more of that inner work internally, and more of even the creator doing the inner work of like what is the messaging, what is, it's not even about what makes them unique. Let's just take that out because I feel like that brings in more competition stuff around whatever's out there. Like what is their message that they want to say, like as an individually, like connecting to their core of who they really are. Because I think the problem is too when you start looking at what everybody else is doing, you lose a sense of who you are and what you should be focusing on. And I think we all could probably admit to doing that sometimes too much.
Oh, 100%. We're always looking at our competition, and maybe that's another survival thing that you were mentioning earlier. And so it's very normal to do so. But like, for example, these conversations that we're having and that I have with other business owners, it's my goal that I wish to put the people around me who are doing really cool things in the business world on a pedestal. Has nothing to do with real estate, but business owners are some of the biggest movers and shakers in the communities that we call home. And so maybe it's a little bit real estate related, but but it's like knowing who Michigan Realty is internally. There's something to be said about the psychology of a brand and what a brand stands for deeper than just here's the logo, we sell houses, check us out.
Exactly.
And most businesses aren't willing to wrestle with that idea because that implies a lot of work. That implies, oh, well, we're getting into a world of subjectivity where there may be multiple right answers to this question, and I have to pick one now. But what if I pick one and that's not the right path to go down? And so I think a lot of business owners fear that decision of picking a direction and going with it. So how do you instill confidence, even knowing that there may be 10 correct answers? Why are we going with answer number 2? How do you get a business owner to feel confident in themselves and in that brand to go that direction?
Well, I always ask a person to, if I like straight up, like once I ask them the question, whatever first comes to their mind, what is that? Out of the options, and whatever that first answer is, that's the one to go with, right? It's like
that's your intuition.
That's your intuition, because then it's like it gives a moment for the brain to just shut up, get the chatter out. And I do that to myself, honestly. I've also learned, which I probably will teach brands too. But I've learned other techniques too of feeling it within your body. Like how, I don't know if you've seen this where people will hold up their arm and they'll ask a question out loud. And if it's the wrong answer, that will go down. And if it's the right answer, it will stay strong.
Really? That's the thing. Okay. Wow.
Yes, it goes into this experiment. It kind of connects to this experiment that this one, I don't know if he was a scientist. I think he was a scientist, a doctor, or either a scientist, but essentially he was testing out music with water. And so based off of playing really nice music, how would the water react? I think it was also someone else did it with the plant, talking to plants. But essentially though, you could see from the crystals within the water or how the water reacted, what the cells did, whatever, how it responded. And it's really the same thing within our bodies. because our bodies are made up of so much water.
Totally.
So so if a person really wants to know an answer, they could just ask themselves, and you actually, instead of the arm and you have another person push your arm, but for yourself, you could just kind of stand straight up. And then if you ask the question out loud and you lean forward, that's a yes. If you go backwards, that's a no. And it's helping people to feel more within themselves intuitively. So that's really what I teach more.
Do you do yoga? You sound like you're very mindful.
I actually don't do yoga, but I do meditation though. So, or a lot of breathing exercises. I work with a spiritual coach, and we do a lot of just sitting and she'll teach me to just sit and think and listen and calm my mind from talking all the chit chatter. So I've gotten a lot better at listening to my intuition more comparatively of having all these thoughts go on, and it's
Totally. Well, they said when I was growing up, well, Jeff, you might have ADHD. And they explained it. Well, they explained it like, Jeff, you've got a bunch of lottery balls in your head bouncing around. You've got all these thoughts. Sometimes it's, and for whatever reason, this example is coming to my head, but you've got all of these lottery balls bouncing in your head. You know, you need to be able to create a list and to get very organized and to just also keep things very simple. You're sometimes all over the place, right? And yeah, so meditation and yoga, that's very helpful, especially like, and I don't think enough people who are in positions of leadership in the world of business are willing to admit that they have to take a second to like breathe.
No, I totally agree. And I'm glad. And it's funny that I think that was a great analogy that you gave of lottery balls, because immediately I thought of all them jumping around and everything too. But yeah, and my coach is also, I believe she said this too, she's found for people who have ADHD or other issues connected to similarities, they also have done a lot. She's just breathing with them to help with calming, because most of the time too, we are not breathing correctly. Right. You know, we're breathing from the lungs, or we're doing short breaths. And so also reteaching ourselves, how do we breathe? You know, we're taking breaks. Like she always tells me, take a break. Like, why do you keep going when you're trying to push yourself? It's like useless because you're not getting as much done as you need to. So I will regularly now go for a walk, you know, take a nap for like a little bit and then come back.
So that's become a really important part of your life recently.
Then, huh? Oh yeah. Like I said, that's why it's a rebirth. I'm getting a chill.
Yeah.
A rebirth of how I was operating. Cause it's like, and I just think too, from a standpoint of health wise, and to be our authentic self and to really show up, to really do what we all have come here each individually to do. We can't do that if we're not taking care of our bodies. You know, there's like the physical self, there's the mental, there's the emotional, there's energetic, you know, and spiritual self. And so if we're not taking care of all those 5 things, we become a hot mess.
Totally. I agree. I have a background in soccer. That's really my first and foremost love.
I love soccer. So much fun.
Right. And it's constant running. There's always something going on the soccer field. And when I hit 31, 32, I started to realize, oh, I'm not 19 anymore. I can't run as hard as I used to be able to. And the next day, so sore. I mean, getting out of bed is a chore. Going up the stairs is painful, right? And I have to grapple with this idea that I'm getting older. And I started to notice that, oh, I'm not breathing properly. And that started waves of panic attacks, because then my heart would start to race and I'd realize, oh, wait, I'm feeling my heart rate. That's weird. As a runner, as somebody who's an endurance athlete, I shouldn't be feeling my heart. Like my heart rate is 50 beats a minute or less usually. And if I'm feeling it pound out of my chest, maybe I'm having a heart attack. And I go down this spiral of concern, mostly because of a realization that, oh, my body isn't the same body as I once had. And so a lot of my mindfulness work is to remind myself that, yeah, I'm changing. I'm constantly changing. I'm constantly getting older. Every 7 years, I'm a whole clump of new cells, right? And the one thing that is consistent is your mind. And so if you can strengthen that, then no matter what ailment comes your way, physically or emotionally, if you're mentally and spiritually there, then you'll be able to overcome whatever situations come your way. And yeah, that was kind of like my little midlife crisis, is going through this, realization that I'm not going to play at the highest level of soccer anymore. You know, it's starting to realize that, I'm going to have to become more mindful of who I truly am, and channel that competitive spirit into a different avenue where I feel just as fulfilled.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I totally understand that completely.
Not to make you Dr. Phil or anything. I just felt like it was a good time to share that, because you're
I can understand that too. And there's also some concepts of people saying like, I mean, because I relate to you in different ways of just being, because I like to run on the treadmill and I'm like, but I think it's about the mindset too. And like, like my coach told me sometimes, even though we do, obviously we do, that's the point of life. It's like we age, but it's also a part of like figuring out like other ways of making it so that your body still can be at its best. And there's all these things around mind and whatever else, but I totally get you. And I think a lot of people deal with that.
Oh, well, food is another thing too, when it comes to working and being efficient in the world of business, whether business or sports. You know, I've gone through seasons where I'm eating like crap.
Yes,
you know?
we all live, right? Because we're just trying to get stuff done. You're just, you know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so as soon as you change your diet too, you'll notice a night and day difference in how you just go about life, and you become more creative and more free and more energetic. And so that plays a huge role in how one feels too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've gone on this journey. Now you're a business leader. You're a business owner. You're now going through this metamorphosis in your own personal life with mindfulness and becoming more aware of just the deeper resonance of life. What is one thing that, if you were to give prospective business owners a piece of advice, what's one piece of advice you would like to leave people with today?
Okay, I'm feeling intuitively said to say, listen to your intuition. I think we all, many of us can have taken it for granted many times, where we don't use it enough to trust ourselves and to be self-assured in what direction or like the life that we want to build for our companies or for ourselves. And I think it's so important to always reconnect back to it, because regardless of what everybody else is saying, the thing is, the vision was given to you because you're the one to carry out the vision. And sometimes it could take time for that vision to come into existence. I know it's taken a second with RIZZARR, but I also had a lot of personal development that I also needed to do to be the person I needed to be to fully build out the vision of the company. Yeah. So I think it's the patience and the humility to listen to the intuition and to listen to ourselves, because I think this was a quote by Marianne Williamson. She said, like, if we don't listen to ourselves, how do we expect other people to listen to us?
It's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, it's like in sales. If you don't believe in the product you're selling, how are you going to sell it?
Right.
Yeah. So
exactly.
If you're not listening to yourself, why would anybody else?
Right.
That's great. And of course too, when you listen to yourself and you are doing what you believe, you enter into a conversation or an opportunity with conviction.
Yes. Ooh, got to chill. Absolutely.
Love it.
Yes.
I love it. Well, Ashley, thank you for being here with me today and having a conversation for Michigan Realty.
Oh, of course.
Where can people find you? Thank you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, they can follow me at Ashley and Will, and also I'll be updating my personal website soon, where they can see content from me at ashleyandwilliams.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time again, Ashley, and you're more than welcome to come back on the show anytime.
I love you. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Of course.